Hola, científicos. How are you today? Oh, sounds like we're enjoying the day. Has anybody made any observations of the day or night sky? Oh, how exciting. It sounds like all of you are turning into astronomers. I've said this word once or twice before, but do you remember or know what it means? Some of you got it confused with astronaut. That's actually very interesting because that prefix is the same. Astro means pertaining to the stars, and the rest means a person who studies. So that means an astronomer is somebody that studies what pertains to the stars, or somebody that studies space. Since we're talking about the day and night sky, as well as our Earth and Sun, I thought it would be great to learn about more astronomers from the past. Most of the cultures that we will be focusing on will be from ancient times. People have been studying the night sky for so long, for thousands of years. Yes, you heard me, thousands. Our time right now is measured at 2021 years, but we actually have history that goes beyond these 2021 years. I know that may be a big number for many of us, but it's important to realize how old this science is. Scientists and astronomers use telescopes to see the night sky, but they were only invented 413 years ago. So what did people do before that? Well, they did a couple of things, and they used the stars for different reasons too. Let's start with Chinese astronomy. And here, there we go, is where China is on a map. One famous ancient astronomer from here was Gande. And sorry if I mispronounced that. He is known for discovering a reddish star near Jupiter, as well as for creating a star catalog. That means that he kept record of all the stars that he observed in the sky. Wow, his science notebook must have had many pages. Recently, astronomers realized that it wasn't a star that Gande had seen near Jupiter. It was actually a moon. Not the same as ours, but that was completely observable by the human eye, which means you don't need a telescope to see it. So scientists and astronomers used to just observe the sky to see what was in space? That sounds incredible. Another astronomer from this time was Shen. And he actually made a lot of discoveries with Gande. He mapped 121 stars in his own star catalog and also discovered that the sun could have spots. Oh, we didn't learn about that together in our observations. He was a little off on how the sun gets its spots, but scientists couldn't confirm that until way later. How interesting. So these astronomers studied stars. How appropriate. Let's move on to another culture. Oh, yes, this one is one of my favorites, the Mayans. They lived and live in what is now Guatemala and some regions of southern Mexico, Veracruz, Oaxaca, and Chiapas. Astronomy was so important to everyday life. Without astronomy, they would not have their calendars. The Mayans of Mesoamerica used the lunar calendar, and through their observations, they were able to predict moon phases, or when the moon would change and look different to us, as well as eclipses, which is when the moon covers the sun and we can't see, as well as other astronomical events. They built temples and pyramids because of their studies of the stars. Chichen Itza, which is in Mexico, is home to many temples and pyramids. Most of the stars and constellations were recorded in codexes, or booklets. The most famous is the Dresden Codex. This contains a lot of information about their astronomy and practices. How amazing! Even though these cultures didn't really communicate, isn't it amazing that they both studied the same sky? I agree. Let's see how others study the stars. Yes, wayfinding. This is really interesting. Wayfinding traditions come from Polynesia. This is a triangle of islands in the Pacific Ocean. Included are Samoa, Tonga, New Zealand, and Hawaii, but there are many, many more. Now, something that makes these astronomers different is that they didn't catalog or write down the stars and their constellations. They relied on memory. The practices of wayfinding were also passed down through oral tradition, which means that people didn't go to school to become astronomers. They just learned from each other by talking. Since the night sky would repeat its patterns every year, they found that using the stars as maps was a very reliable form of navigation. And remember, this was way before telescopes. They were so good at navigating that many scientists and historians believe that the Polynesians actually might have made contact with South America before the Spanish did. But that seems more like a history lesson. We'll get to that another time. You know what I find so interesting, científicos? All of these cultures were so curious about our nighttime sky, and they all used it differently. Many Chinese astronomers also studied astronomical divination. They used the stars and constellations to try to understand and explain what was happening here on Earth. The Mayans used the codexes and calendars for religion and to understand the world around them. Many Polynesians used stars for wayfinding to find out more about the world around them. So it seems like all of these scientists had questions, investigated them, and made conclusions, just like us. I guess we must be astronomers too. Well, that's all the time that we have for today, astronomers. When we resume our learning tomorrow, we will conclude why the sky always looks so different. Please enjoy the rest of the show. I can't wait to learn even more with you tomorrow.